Hi, Mike Shope here, getting ready to start with Pat Corain and Davis Maddock. Happy Thanksgiving, and thanks for being a part of our show, ADP Chasing. Next case on the docket is the same case as it's been pretty much all year. The case of the sexy young wide receivers versus Saquon Barkley. I wanted to find a middle name and went to Pro Football Reference to make it more dramatic, but couldn't. I guess he doesn't have a middle name. It is ADP Chasing. We'll talk about everything that's happened so far in week 12 and see what happens. Thanks for being a part of our show. This is November 25th, 2024. I'm Mike with Pat and Davis. This is ADP Chasing.
ADP Chasing is for when you watch Ship Chasing, you go, these guys are just football guys.
And the targets per outrun leagues, that's going to be really nice.
Actually back in if it's Ashane.
Stare into our crystal ball. Close your eyes, all your entries are going to lose anyway.
Yeah. That's fair.
This is a Deuce Vaughn show.
It's anti-cabal. It's anti the best ball thought leaders. I'm obviously lying to some degree because, I have a lot of both of these guys.
It's the most disgusting pick you can make. But, man.
All right. So just a wonderful day for us to be doing ADP Chasing the morning after Saquon Barkley goes for 255.
I took a Saquon lower on underdog last night. But it was under 20 and a half rush attempts, which is so many rushes. So many rushes.
He got there easily.
And he had 13 rushes at the end of the first half. I was like, well, and the other legs were spicy peps, Puka, alt hires, AJ Brown, alt hires, no sweat.
What's a worse feeling today?
When will I learn?
Barkley lower or McLaurin?
I mean, if you had McLaurin lowers yesterday, you're having a bad time. You're having a bad time.
Well, at least you didn't have Washington to cover. I mean, that was
right.
Yeah.
4 for 16 and 0 was McLaurin until that play, I guess.
That's crazy.
Anyway, boys, happy Thanksgiving. I know you both have. I think Davis. I know Pat has a young daughter, Vivian. My niece's name is Vivian. It'll be a big Thanksgiving here in a few days. But so hopefully you guys have big plans this week that are, I want to say, outside of football, or is that wrong to say?
Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday. It's the greatest American holiday because there are no religious overtones. So you don't have to deal, if you're not a religious person, you don't have to deal with your religious family. And if you are a religious person, you don't have to deal with your heretic in-laws, making a mockery of it. It's a true day where we can all agree. Who doesn't like?
As a heretic in-law, I will say that my in-laws don't seem to. Not my in-law. It's more my aunts and uncles. My blood aunts and uncles seems to still have plenty of issues to talk through
on Thanksgiving. How can you have an issue on Thanksgiving?
Thanksgiving has been very contentious over the years.
My God.
What's the 101 as in terms of what's the best time to eat?
Right after the Lions game. It's always when you want to eat. You always want to eat after the Lions game.
Central time, Eastern time, Pacific time. Maybe football does factor in here.
Football should factor in, and that's been a potential issue over the years for me, is that it's never factored in really to our schedule in the big family events. So when I was younger, we're just like, usually when the game is coming down to the wire, it's time to eat. So yeah, I think after that Lions game makes a ton of sense. What time? I'm pulling that up. So that's like
1:30, 2 p.m. Central time in general.
Yeah. So the Cowboys game starts at 1:30 Eastern. Now I think the problem is the Eastern time.
Yeah, 4:30 Eastern, right?
Oh, yeah, 1:30 Pacific. My bad. So 4:30 Eastern. Yeah, that's ideal. If you could get the meal started at 4.
Now, Magikarp in chat is saying that his in-laws don't believe in football. So my in-laws are not football people at all. They live in St. Louis. So people in St. Louis, when the Rams left, they basically decided football over. We don't care. We're not watching it. No one here cares. It's a bizarre experience where most people either don't watch football or only watch college football. So basically, I've just had to be like, look, you guys don't have to care, but these games are on. I'm watching them. They're like, this is the key part of my Thanksgiving experience, and I'm not having the games. And my brother-in-laws, my through marriage brother-in-laws are football people, so we figure it out. Nice. But yeah, my in-laws do not care.
So in 2019, the Bills were, 2017 they made the playoffs, first time in forever. 18 they draft Allen, they win 6 games. We're all sort of waiting for NFC East schedule. There's Super Bowl rematches for what it's worth many years later. What will the primetime schedule look like? And I kind of always assumed every team got at least one Thursday night game. So 2019, the schedule comes out and the Bills play only Sunday afternoon except Thanksgiving in Dallas. And so that we'll take it. There's no prime time, but it's something. It's some relevance. Thanksgiving, can't believe they got it. So on one hand, it was like a step forward for the Bills, who then, last year they played a record 7 night games because they got the last one flex. You're not even supposed to be able to do that. 19, they win in there. They go to Dallas for Thanksgiving. Daddy has to leave, which is the first. I host the post-game show. First time ever I've had to work on Thanksgiving. I don't have to work nights with this team, Thanksgiving, whatever. My was here. This is they're getting ready to kick off Bills Cowboys. He's like, just don't embarrass us. That's kind of like the Bills fan mantra or ethos. Just don't make it so bad. They win that game. They get Thanksgiving in New Orleans. Then they get Thanksgiving in Detroit. They win these games too. Not this year, but it's become kind of a common thing for them to play on Thanksgiving, and it's cool. This year has a chance to be really bad for sort of the viewers. With Chicago, Detroit, maybe that stays close. Then
I think that game's going to be good. And okay. I actually think the Dallas game is going to be good too, because I think Dallas showed us they're so crappy, anyone can hang with them. Jaden Daniels was brutal in that game. Let's not, because he got 33 fantasy points, you're not going to realize that he was bad, dude. He missed a bunch of throws. It was like classic Cliff Kingsbury. It was only a good game because of the Cowboys.
Yeah, we had the social stuff of everyone just absolutely apoplectic about Cliff and people making fun of the meltdowns, second half meltdowns for Cliff and everything. So yeah, that ending, which obviously was still devastating for the Commanders, but it moves the devastation from the offense to them missing extra point, them not going for 2. But I agree. Before that, there was a lot of people were just like, what the heck is going on with this offense?
Dan Quinn could not wait to raise that finger. He could not wait to raise that one finger for the tie. He could not wait.
Yeah. And we've got, potentially we've got Dable losing the locker room. There's been a bunch of reports of people being of Giants insiders being like, these dudes do not care. Neighbors. We've got, Neighbors said it. Neighbors said it to the media. You gotta ask Dable about that, brother. And then Dable said in his media availability today that they talked, behind closed doors. I'll tell you this right now: if you have a sports book, if you're in a legal sports betting state that offers this first reception in Giants Cowboys, whatever the number is on Neighbors, I bet that at minus. I bet it at minus 500. I think that's good. That's good to minus 500.
You need first target, man. You need first
target.
First play. Isn't he right?
In the second quarter.
Okay, they can't pass protect. Okay, they're only running so many plays. Isn't the wide receiver almost always right in that case? Just throw him a screen pass in the beginning of the game. You don't have a problem to this extent anyway. Not to make it always about the Bills, but with Sammy Watkins, that drove me crazy. You traded first round picks to get him. Why isn't in the first series, one pass to him and get him in space? So I think Neighbors has a point.
So are we saying the issue is that Xavier Worthy is not selfish enough? Do we need Xavier Worthy to be going to the media and be like, look, man, all due respect to Juju Smith-Schuster, throw me the goddamn ball. I would really like if Worthy would be a little. If it feels like
is this the only reason receivers bust is that they just aren't
loud
savvy,
enough? Who knew they weren't loud enough?
Tony, if he was just better at the media, would have been a star.
You can't do that in Kansas City. Come on. I mean, no, you can't pull that in
can
Kansas
you
City.
imagine if one of these guys they would be in Narnia so fast? Like if a non-Kelsey player said something to the media about needing the ball more, we would never see them again. It would just be it would be like, dude, you think I won't replace you with Tyquan Thornton? Watch me. Watch me. It will happen immediately. Like, I mean, I think that's actually
so
why they prefer bringing in these veterans. That's like why they have P. Ryan. That's why, like, Khalil Herbert would be better than P. Ryan for them, but they're like, no, dude, we want someone who's 30 and all they care about is winning games. They do not care about getting the ball at all.
Even when it came to Tony, they didn't draft him, so it wasn't even like there was no internal pressure.
They traded a third-round pick for him, though, and then the following year they were like, "We got our number one in Tony." So they did. That was a weird one.
But there was no sunk cost fallacy with Tony, where after he blew. I mean, so he blows the line. He blows the Lions game.
Yeah,
there was the first year, but he blows the Lions game, and at that point, the great clip of Mahomes on the sideline being like, "I just told you, don't fumble." And like after that point, I mean, he was a healthy scratch in the Super Bowl.
Healthy scratch of the Super Bowl. Yeah. He didn't have a shot of making the roster. They were like, "You're gone. You're done."
Yeah, they were like
the year after he was like the star of the Super Bowl. The year after, but that's right.
Yeah.
Well, it is moving on to Week 13 and Thanksgiving. And in terms of best ball, I was watching Pete this morning tilting about Abdullah not getting a couple more receiving yards in the Raiders Denver game. And he slipped in, and I don't not believe him. He's like, I'm usually pretty zen when it comes to these sweats. I don't know, Pat and then Davis, where are you guys at with sort of how this year feels? I know we've all had, Barkley is a big topic today, and we haven't really touched on that yet, but we're all having our own internal struggles. Are we at a point yet where we're sort of like used to it and a little bit more relaxed than we'd like to be? Or just what is Sunday like for you guys?
My whole face off because I'm also running bad in my DFS stuff has actually been okay, but I'm running like horribly bad in the underdog battle royale games. Like Josh Jacobs was my most drafted player yesterday. It should have been like a legitimate like print money button, and like immediate, just like didn't have the right teams, didn't have the right combos, like immediate loss like that. Or the week before, I'm one of 98 users who has a St. Brown, Taysom Hill, Jared Goff team. Don't even get close there. Like it just is. I'm just tilting my whole face off like every Sunday. Not very zen.
I've been somewhere in the middle because I've had a lot of DFS. This last DFS week was one of a handful of weeks I've had where like I got really close. Like I finished top 50 in the power sweep last week yesterday with Jacobs and Hawkinson and McBride, and I just did like a overstack of that Seattle game. And so like the pieces that didn't get there for me were like all correlated. Like Gino, DK, I had JSN who was good, but I had Kenneth Walker, and then I had McBride coming back. So I did like a big stack of that game. And you're like, if this game just goes off like a little more, like it almost was enough. So I've had a number of those, but I had one good week as well. So DFS has not been like super tilting. You kind of take that for what it's worth. That's going to happen.
DFS is just by its nature set up to be tilting. Like losing in DFS is like, I don't know, whatever.
Right. You almost want those weeks because you're like, all right, at least I'm like kind of on stuff,
Yeah.
It's still tilting though. The most tilting thing for me has honestly been the Shipcast stuff where we just like keep having like these horrible beats. So the last week we got right with hitting a core. So that was good. As far as best ball goes, I mean, early on, incredibly tilted. Because one, you're dealing with like the reality that will hit you every year that you're going to be much worse at predicting the future than it feels like you should be. Right. In the summer, you're like, I'm going to get everything right. It'll be easy. I'll just be right about everything, and then you're, obviously that's not going to pan out. And then this year I was wrong about a lot more stuff than I was hoping. And ran bad on some stuff that I felt good at, like the Rice injury.
No, it's like whatever. You're gonna lose. You're gonna have a bunch of bad opinions anyways. But running bad on the stuff you were right about is intolerable.
It's really
intolerable. Like Chase Brown is the best pick on the fucking board, and it's not gonna matter for me because Rashee Rice got tackled and destroyed by his own quarterback. It's just very hard to stomach.
And then the stuff you're wrong about, you don't want to be like too wrong about. But this year, it's been clear for weeks that we were going to be really wrong about Saquon. So, you know, and I've said people don't like this framing, but I've said like with Saquon, you know, I was kind of like trying to figure out the range of outcomes. And it's like, how does this guy beat me? Like he beats me with like an insane rushing efficiency season. And I'm just like not gonna bet on it. Like you have to have. He just has to be cheaper if that's the out. And he's not catching that many passes, and he scored 10 touchdowns. It's not been right. But he's having like the insane rushing efficiency season. So I definitely underpriced the probability of that. I think that's like very obvious that you know the upside for him purely as a efficient rusher was much higher than I was thinking it was. But that's my cope on Saquon. Is that like at least it hit in the thin way that I was like, I don't know. If this is the path for it, then I guess I'm good betting against
that. That is true. Like at least if he was getting the 1 yard touchdowns too,
that would be way more tilting.
Then it would be like, well, you're just an idiot and you just don't understand football. But like the thesis of like, well, he's not really going to catch that many passes and he's not going to get the goal line work. That's all happened. They actually it's insane. They actively sub out Saquon Barkley inside the 10-yard line for Kenneth Gainwell. They do this.
Dude, it could have been worse yesterday. Kenneth Gainwell had a nice touchdown run.
Yeah, 13-yard touchdown.
Yeah, like if that's Saquon, I mean, we're even more buried. Like it's.
I mean, he could legitimately have a 30 touchdown season if they had wanted him to have that.
Right, but they use the tush push and they have other stuff. So yeah, I think that the funny thing too with the Saquon stuff is that like. I checked my advance rate heading into that game, and I checked my advance rate after, and it was like one team. Like it's already baked in. Like the Saquon teams are advancing, and I don't have many of them, and it's like the two teams advance from every league. So like I was hoping to be the other one. You know what I mean?
The Chase team and the Barkley team get to advance, and then sometimes in some pods those are going to be the same team. And well, if that's
there's other big
honestly, I'd rather them be the same team.
Yeah, you'd rather them be the same team. Yeah. We'll see. I think the problem with Barkley is that his matchups in the fantasy playoffs are so juicy.
Washington, Dallas. I mean, it's basically like the thing is though. This is such unique to myself. 2 weeks ago, I played Barkley over Kamara in DFS in cash, and Barkley got 8 points. And I just remember thinking, this could only happen to me. This could really the week that Barkley gets 8 points. It really and then
I played him that week too. I think.
Yeah, to watch him rip off 35 points or whatever.
It's annoying. It's close to the end for advancing, and that's what matters first. But it's Washington and Dallas after they play the Steelers in Week 15, which is not great. I don't know.
Well, I'm gonna be wearing an Arthur Smith jersey. whatever he wears on the sidelines, I'm just gonna mimic. I wasn't on with you, until last week, but I was watching every week and trying to figure out the best process and strategy for Best Ball Mania. And it was you might tell me I was a little bit naive here. I don't know, but it was a little bit too tempting. Late, if you had the late draft positions, 10, 11, 12. To go with Puka and Harrison, just sort of to correlate that right away. You want wide receivers. And if I can get, not every time, but if I can get that correlation right away, it is all that matters. I've been told you want to do that. And Barkley, Chase and Barkley, that's fine. That's on the, 4 or 5 position, maybe if you get to Barkley there or in the middle, at least. I don't know. Is there any, we're talking on, Pat, I was listening to you and Eric Beimfor sort of going over, like we're all doing, what did we get? What was a mistake and what was just a fluke? That kind of stuff. What about right now? How do you feel when it comes to correlation? Is there anything we should have done differently? Should we have cared less about it? Philadelphia and Dallas gives you Lamb,
but he's gone already. That's on the other end. And, with Dallas, there weren't obviously other guys until way in the middle of drafts with Dowdle or even like Brandon Cooks or somebody like that. I mean, that was tough to do. So for me, it was a little bit of a seed it was a reason not to pick Barkley in those late, draft positions.
So I think the funny thing about all this stuff is that, like, and you could, I think, argue that this is not fair or good, but like Barkley's game last night, like ultimately, like probably won't matter very much because he like was already having such a crushing season. So like if you're not advancing a Barkley team, like you might not have any quarterbacks or like you completely whiffed a wide receiver, like he's already, it matters, but it's not like going to be the thing that we remember as defining for the season that, this past game against the Rams. What we will remember as defining is like spike weeks in weeks 15, 16, and 17. And so I think it's too early to say like about correlation or like, I think what you want, because what we're about to get in a couple weeks, we're about to get the victory laps on like I advanced 50 teams or whatever. And, those are fun, like good for you. But those people will be lucky to get one team to the final because it's extremely difficult to get one team to the final. Even if you get spotted like twice the amount of teams that you're, going to get by variance, you're still really lucky to get one team to the final. And so like, it's just, we don't know yet. Like that's in a tournament like Best Ball Mania with single week cuts. We still don't actually know what we're going to look back on in 2024 and say, this is what we should have been drafting. Now, from a process standpoint, I think we can already take some stuff away. But from a results-oriented, like, what did I want to have? It's probably Barkley. It's probably Barkley, given how good the season's been and his schedule. But we don't actually know, a lot of it.
The thing that is not frustrating, the thing that I can't figure out is that Barkley's ADP was ahead of A-Chain, but I had A-Chain ranked higher, and A-Chain has been awesome.
Yeah.
A-Chain has been, so it's like, I don't know, was that really bad? Like A-Chain, I think, is like my fourth or third most drafted running back or something like that. And it's like, well, I don't really want to do over on A-Chain. He's been great. It's just that
the other with A-Chain, the way I try to think through stuff is like, when I looked at him, I was like, okay, the rushing efficiency is insane. That's great. You love to see that. But he has outs to becoming like this really high-end receiving option. So even if I lose the rushing efficiency, I could still get there that way. And like, that's what's happened. So like the multiple outs to a really good season thesis on A-Chain, I think was correct. I mean, it almost has to be correct because it hasn't been efficient as a runner really. And honestly, the goal line stuff has been at least okay. He hasn't been like removed from that. He scores touchdowns. So yeah, no, I agree. I mean, like A-Chain was a guy I'm like, not only am I happy to have him, but he's a guy that I'm happy to have and do have. Like the teams that I'm getting through, a lot of them are A-Chain teams.
A lot of them are A-Chain.
He's been a savior. Yeah.
Can I just follow up a question specific to Harrison in that 1-2 turn range this year? I mean, I know this has been covered, but it seems like a lot of the narrative this year, like sort of like what the cope is, well, their wide receivers all got hurt or their quarterbacks got hurt, like a Tyreek or a situation like that. It's not true in Harrison's case. And man, if there's one game I would love to have seen be different yesterday, it's that game, Arizona and Seattle. There was so much, redraft, FFPC, week 12. Come on, McBride got there, but both teams, where was the juice? And it sort of puts a spotlight again on Harrison and just kind of what a dud this rookie season has been. I mean, relative term, but was there a mistake, if you don't mind, going back into this for a minute, specific to him?
Yeah, that was one of my preseason truth serum takes, was that he was being overdrafted. The idea of taking him specifically ahead of Nico. I just basically don't think there's any way before the fact, after the fact, viewing what we've seen, even knowing how shitty Stroud has been, just don't really think there was any justification for that. And that was how I drafted it. I took Nico at the turn. I also was taking Pneumonia Samuel ahead of him as well. I mean, I don't know. Like, do you would you rather have Pneumonia Debo or Marvin Harrison Jr., who like has fewer has fewer points than like Westbrook Akini? I don't know.
Well, I mean,
I think that
part of the allure, Pat, of Harrison was that there was not as much competition with Collins and with Samuel. They had both had like that question in spades, which was, how much target volume will they get? Whereas Harrison had McBride, but really after that, sorry, Davis, I know Greg Dortch, but like really after that, it was kind of wide open.
Yeah, I was into Harrison just because it's like the best wide receiver prospect we've had in a long time, and I didn't want to not have him. But I guess if you're like thinking through the Harrison thing in retrospect, it is similar to the Barkley case that I was not into, right? Where you're like, what's the path? The path is pretty specific, too specific. It's that he's the best wide receiver rookie, like in generate. He's Jamar Chase, basically. He hits the ground running. Because like you look at CeeDee Lamb. Remember when like CeeDee Lamb like wasn't a dominant receiver? It took a few years. Pete used to call him beta CD. Yeah, beta CD. So you get I think Marvin Harrison's rookie season, when I look at when I zoom out and I like strip away our preseason expectations for him, I think it's very promising. Yeah. I'm like, this guy's gonna be good. But we demanded that he be amazing right away, which was too high. I mean, yeah, I think he was overpriced for sure, and probably should have recognized that in a way that I was like, hey, if you're not on board with kind of demanding a specific outcome for this running back, you probably shouldn't be on board for demanding it for a wide receiver either.
Looking up, his father went 64 for 830 and 8. And his son could end up being like sort of almost exactly right there, but doesn't really matter. So long ago. Debo, well, I mean, Davis. Yep. Pat?
No, I just think on Harrison, I think we as a fantasy community of like, and I'm a part of this, but we put too much expectations on it, and then we're going to view this season as like this, really bad season. It's not. It's bad for us. It's not bad for him.
San Francisco, speaking of Samuel, and now they are 5-6, and I think they're coming my way for Sunday Night Football this week with or without Brock Purdy. What are we doing with the 49ers? I think this is the most interesting puzzle right now in the NFL. I guess we have to wait on Purdy, and if he's back, then I think it's kind of like it was, even though they're on the outside of the playoff picture. We're thinking about maybe do they sort of wave a white flag this year with their age and the contract commitments? I don't know. McCaffrey, Kittle, nice day for him yesterday. Ayuk's already gone. And of course, Samuel. What are your vibes and your read on the Niners?
The vibes could not be worse. I mean, let me tell you, the 49ers vibes could not possibly be worse. Apparently, Brandon Allen, by the way, this is Kyle Shanahan reaping after he has sown. Did not report to the media 2 weeks ago that not Kyle Allen. Wow, talking about bad quarterbacks that McCaffrey's had to play with. Brandon Allen broke his middle finger of his non-throwing hand in practice 2 weeks ago. Doesn't report it. Never on the practice report. Never mentioned. Not mentioned anywhere in any of the lead up. And then the broadcast is like, "Oh, dude, yeah, he's playing with a broken finger on his hand." So shout out to you, Kyle. Absolutely.
They gotta find this dude. He keeps covering shit up.
I mean, it's literally breaking the rules. It is not. Yeah. That is outside of the rules of what the NFL wants.
If you let Brady in the meetings, maybe he could have told you that, but I don't know. Somehow that isn't allowed. Anyway.
So one of the guys in my chat of my YouTube stream yesterday was telling me this story about Nick Mullins that made me recontextualize the entire thing that I think about Kyle Shanahan. Apparently, Nick Mullins is like the most dialed in backup quarterback of all time. Apparently, this guy after games hangs out at Levi Stadium, has noise canceling headphones on with crowd noise in, and runs through the entire game plan, like makes all the throws and stuff after the game, is just like locked in, dialed in, cannot wait to be called upon. And I think pretty clearly the Purdy thing is just he was way better than scouts ever realized.
Yeah. Like Purdy was really good.
Purdy's just a good player. You know, I mean, obviously,
because you look at the system. I wrote this up like with the walkthrough and stuff heading into the game, and I've been writing for weeks. Like Purdy's not playing like people think of Purdy. He's not playing Garoppolo ball at all.
No, he's been playing great.
He's been playing so good. He's got a long time to throw. He moves around. He makes plays. He's taking more risk. Like this is not like a system that's producing like these constant easy button throws for him. He's having to actually make plays on his own, create for himself, which wasn't really true as much when he started. He used to play more Garoppolo ball. And I mean, everyone would like to play Garoppolo ball. You get to be Jimmy Garoppolo level talent and look amazing in the numbers. It's good. It's a good deal. But if you don't have that system, can you actually make plays on your own? And Purdy's proven, I think, very, very clearly that he can do that. But then, stepping into to fill the void, Brandon Allen, all of a sudden, I think makes it even clearer what Purdy was holding up for this team.
Here's something I'd like to put into the universe. 49ers are eliminated from playoff contention. CMC just looks like ass. He's clearly, I don't know if he's injured or if it's just we're done here, which would happen to 29-year-old running or 28-year-old running backs.
Imagine that.
Jordan
is how old Saquon's going to be next year when we decide.
Imagine that.
We're going to take him at the 101. That's what's
Henry
going to happen.
versus Dobbins tonight, by the way. Let's go.
Yeah. Jordan Mason, who you need in the fantasy football playoffs, comes all the way back around to being Jordan Mason. Yeah.
Fine. What do we know about advance rates when it comes to Mason? Like, is he somebody? I mean, I got to a point. I told you, Pat, when we talked a little bit earlier in the season. Like, I caught up or went farther than that on Mason, but now it feels like just another guy, more dead weight on the bench.
18%. So basically average.
He could be one of those guys where you're like, we knew, he could be a big one.
At Buffalo, Chicago, then Rams, Dolphins, and Lions in the fantasy playoffs.
It's just, McCaffrey just looks bad, man. Like he just looked complete, like no chance was he going to matter yesterday. Like you turn that game on, you watch the first series and you're like, oh, this is not happening. Like if I late swapped to McCaffrey on a couple teams because I knew he was going to be like 10%. And I was like, I immediately want to take that one back. I don't like that.
Should we have all known to bet Green Bay? I mean, I know it's always
I did bet Green Bay.
Should we have all known to do that? Like on Friday, after the news came out on Purdy, it was 5.5. I don't know where it ended, but should we have all just known that was easy? I mean, that's Green Bay has not exactly been crushing and ends up being just sort of an easy game. I mean, we got the Niners-Bills Sunday night. That game opened at 3.5, and then it went to 7. Like, is that just a gimme for the Bills, or is it not that easy?
It's probably that easy. Although, we just don't know.
So Bosa was out, and they can't really stop the run. So that, I think in a way, it was like the Packers are like the worst team to face. Like if Jordan Love's going to take deep shots. God, that Christian Watson drop.
Christian Watson.
So bad. He's attacking downfield. They're picking their spots. They're a run-heavy team. Packers have been run-heavy all season, not just with Willis. And the 49ers are not good against the run. So, and then if Love has time to throw when he does drop back, you're going to be in trouble. The Bills, I don't know. I mean, the Bills will be interesting. They've definitely shifted to the run more. And they have a solid run game, but they're not as built around the run as the Packers are.
They want to be, but you're right.
They kind of want to be, yeah.
Minnesota, how about their last 3 weeks? Winning in Jacksonville, then Tennessee, in Chicago. 3 in a row on the road, all competitive wins. I mean, yesterday was at least that. Davis, what I think part of, if I may, Davis's appeal is like the Gilcast last night. You just sort of like are ready for Davis to sort of like, this is the end of the world, whatever, what's just happened, best ball, DFS, whatever it is. So I'm in one of these FFPC hardway leagues with Davis, and he might not want to mention it, but I think you're going to get through. And you did it yesterday. I mean, I want to hear if you remember like sort of like what the process was on that. You had everybody's on bye for Davis's team, Pat, and you've got these other hard hitters in there. and you got there. Addison, DJ Moore. So Addison comes up with 30 points in that game. How did that happen? Hawkinson was there. Jefferson was not. What were the takeaways on the Vikes?
You know what? To be honest, Mike, I would have sacrificed not making the playoffs in this league for one goddamn Justin Jefferson 30 burger. It's really all that I ask.
Right.
Justin Jefferson having a 40-yard touchdown called back by granted it was offensive pass interference, but still, it's just like, can something good happen to Justin Jefferson? What has he done to deserve this, man? It's really not fair. But yeah, Mike, I was looking at that team yesterday morning and I was like, I did not plan well for these bye weeks at all because it was a full Bengals team, Burrow, Chase Brown, T. Higgins team with Darnell Mooney. Jake Ferguson was my flex starter all year. But it will be nice to have one FFPC lineup to set the playoffs for. I've been running. Actually, I think I'll probably have a couple. I think Corain, I think you and I have a team actually that we funnily need Derrick Henry tonight, which is let me tell you a little bit of conflicting emotion. Co-owning a team with Pat where we need Derrick Henry to score a bunch of points tonight.
Yeah.
That's always your story. That's always the story, you guys, with Derrick Henry is like, oh, well, somebody else roped me into it. We had Crack
He
Rock.
fell to the fourth
Leone.
round in FFPC. Wasn't it the fourth, Davis?
It was the fourth. This one was me and Pete. Pete and I were like, guys, let's not be.
No, I think I was on board. I'm pretty. Don't let me have this Derrick Henry share. I'm pretty sure I was on board.
No,
that's how you guys do it.
It definitely was. It definitely. I'll say this. I don't remember your reaction. I knew Gretsch did not want to do it, and me and Pete.
I think he was on. Okay, I'm gonna go back and watch now because my.
But let's be real. Let's be real. The only reason we wanted it was because of Best Ball Brain. We said, dude, it's so combinatorially unique. You never get Derrick Henry in the fourth round. That's all it was. It wasn't because we liked Henry. It was we liked the combo.
At least we're in it together. That's the case. But
it does seem like he would have been on board for that. But I'm gonna go see it.
It's content. It's content,
dude. We actually, this is disgusting. We actually need 32 points from Henry, and I'm like, oh my god! I just know what's gonna happen. He's gonna have 21 points in the first half, and we're gonna be in that horrible position of being like, well, do we sacrifice everything else? Every other thing.
We're literally digging around in the little bag of our advance rate to find one more team to sacrifice. Can I give you this one?
Can we? Yeah. You know what? It's an insanely good team, so I do want it to advance.
Pat should know. How in tough was Davis? He started DeVito yesterday in this thing, needing points, and put up 157. Best I could do was 147, and we fell maybe 15 points short, or else we would have had you. But our fancy team was not DeVito equipped. Or Addison, or DJ Moore.
Quarterback. Everyone had me locked out at quarterback. Now, I did want to make sure we covered this today. Caleb Williams was always good. DJ Moore was always a good pick. Keenan Allen is fat, but it doesn't matter. The Cole Kmet drafters were directionally accurate. The DeAndre Swift drafters were directionally accurate. If Shane Waldron had been fired in week 6, the Bears could be a playoff team. Caleb Williams is very good.
The problem with this take is that for Shane Waldron to get fired in week 6, they have to be even worse.
It had to be terrible.
The points were always you try to lift up, it goes down in another place. You know what I mean?
You know what? You're right. We should have just known.
It's the too small blanket theory.
It is the too small blanket theory. Caleb is just a great player, though.
He's good. He looked great yesterday. It was fun.
Defend a Hail Mary, and they're 5-2 after that game. And Washington, if it loses, is what right now? 6-6.
It's good. It's a good thing they didn't. That was pre-Waldron firing, right?
Yep.
That Hail Mary saved their season.
Okay. Well, you like Chicago. DJ Moore, big day yesterday. Odunze, you didn't mention him in that. What about him for what he was as a pick?
Well, he is the worst fit for this new part of the offense. I think he's better than
worstfitbears.com.
Worstfitbears.com. Yeah, because Moore is the gadget screen. Well, Moore has such the perfect profile for fantasy because he gets the design stuff, but he's also so good down the field. If DJ Moore could just play in a normal offense just once, Just one
time.
season.
Once.
And it's never going to happen. DJ Moore is going to have retired, never playing.
Dude, he's going to go to the Chiefs at the end of his career, and he's going to be too old, and it's going to be like a little fun, but not like as fun as it could have been. Like he's going to land on the Chiefs, right? He's the perfect 33-year-old.
Maybe
Chief.
the Bills, maybe the Bengals, maybe the Bengals once he gets cheap enough for the Bengals to sign. So when he's like a $9 million a year guy at 32. Could see
or see your point all the way through, and they're good. Williams is good, and they make it. I mean, McLaurin was a version of this, right? Wasn't McLaurin also somebody who never had the quarterback? Maybe not as well liked as a player.
He's not as good.
Right?
He's not as good.
Moore is like, it's one of my deep held beliefs that DJ Moore is like the 8th best wide receiver in football, and we've just never really got to see it. Like he runs circles around someone like George Pickens. Like George Pickens could never. George Pickens is he's better. Man. He's better down the field, but he does not have the after the catch that DJ Moore does.
Sure, but I mean, Pickens is like one of the best contested catch guys in the league, and gets open now.
Well, he always got open. That was the secret.
No, he didn't. He used to be. It was all like this stuff. It was all body on body. I still catch, and now he's like wide open.
And also getting in fights with fans. I mean, shout out to George Pickens.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I mean,
a truly phenomenal player.
The dog levels between Pickens and Moore, like Moore was like literally like hung head, like going off the field earlier.
Walked off the field. Right.
Yeah, I mean, come on, the dog levels are not.
Which, like, to be honest, I kind of get it from DJ Moore's perspective. Like, this has been his entire career. His entire career has been trying to wrangle passes from like the worst idiots of all time, and then
Darnold was at one point a bright spot for
him. Anyways, to go back to the original question, Rome has the worst role for what Thomas Brown wants to do, because what they want to do is they just want to get the ball as quick as possible right now, and Rome is like a classic boundary rookie wide receiver. So like he just has not learned all the tricks of the trade yet. I think Rome is a very good player, and I'm not like selling Rome stock or anything right now. And Keenan probably won't be on the team next year, I would imagine.
I don't think so.
That's greatfitchiefs.com. 33-year-old Keenan Allen is greatfitchiefs.com. You can go ahead and get your Photoshop.
Keenan Allen 36 on the Chiefs. I think he's like 32. I don't think he's
33. I think.
Okay, Keenan Allen 33 on the Chiefs. Rashee Rice coming off an ACL tear. Spider-Man meme.
Oh, Bears, God. Lions, Thanksgiving morning. Glad you guys like it. I mean, Giants, Cowboys. It's what 10.5, and
no Bears, Lions is going to be good. Put that on the record right now. That is going to be a good.
I think that'll be good too.
What's good?
The Bears will have a lead in that game in a way that at some point.
Okay,
that I don't know about, because you can run on the Bears. Okay, but I could see it. I could see the Lions going up, and then the Bears storming back for like a 10-3. They lead 10-3 at one point.
10-3. What do you guys know about 10-7? You want to amend that?
Yeah.
What do you guys know about Montgomery after yesterday? He left, but then he went back in.
He said he's going to play, and Campbell said he's going to play. That doesn't mean he's going to, because it could be, this is worse than I thought when we get back to the facility situation.
And we're a 10-point favorite again.
Can Montgomery miss one game so that my Sion Vaki thesis can play out? Can he miss one game? Can he miss one game, dude? Just one. Do you know the joy? Watching Sion Vaki catch a 6-yard swing pass against the Bears on Thanksgiving would be almost as good as the Xavier end around.
Isn't Reynolds the Montgomery guy?
No, Vaki's like 220 pounds. He does not look very fast in his limited NFL action. So,
you think?
Laube yesterday, by the way, you guys see that kick return?
Yeah, but did he play? He didn't.
He did not register an offensive snap. No,
sincerely did not play Laube.
Amir Abdullah ran 47 routes yesterday after a previous career high of 40 offensive snaps.
Dang.
I mean, Pat, remember the Deep End Invitational you guys did, and I was on with you all, and I said, like, is there anybody that you haven't drafted even one time this year? I mean, I wonder, another question I'm having about the best ball season process is just whether we get weird enough at the end. And it's sort
Probably
of
not.
easy
Yeah,
to
probably
say,
not.
yeah, I mean, it's easy to say no because there are all these injuries and random things. But look at Carolina yesterday against Kansas City, where, Bryce Young back in looked okay. But every week there's somebody I've never heard of. That night I mentioned Cedric Tillman for this. And I don't know, like there's a little bit of a life there. But who is Devin Tompkins? I mean, David Moore had a better game, but there's always these sort of.
I literally thought that was Ken Burrell Tompkins, by the way. Just like for a moment, I was like, is that Ken Burrell Tompkins? Corinne, are you in the StreamYard?
Yeah.
Just do the share screen thing just for a second. I just shared my screen. I just want to show the funniest possible thing, which was that everyone mocked me for picking Taysom Hill as a quarterback in this format. And I said, buddy, he's flex eligible because this is super flex. I used in this deep end invitational that we were all in together, I used Taysom Hill's 42.5 points, which is
Me too.
I just wanted that out there that I use quarterback Taysom Hill's points.
Last week? Was that last week against Atlanta?
Yeah, week 11. And I probably have used them at another point.
Yeah, you probably used them more. Don't show those screenshots.
Don't show those. Bo Nix is my quarterback too in that league, so maybe it's okay.
Yeah, I don't think I had him in that, but I've seen that on a couple of best ball screens. Jalen Waddle yesterday, kind of the Vince McMahon meme where it's like the three faces and it's Waddle maybe and Addison and then Keenan Allen. What do we take from Miami?
I thought it was a really, really good matchup for Miami. And the announcers, because I have the Patriots game on usually one of the screens, so I was listening to what they were saying, and they were like beside themselves with. Because the funny thing about the Patriots is that like their offensive coaching and preparation is like a dumpster fire.
Yeah,
but they're also terrible on defense. So like, I get the feeling they're going to bring everybody back, but like, it's just completely indefensible, but here we are. But the announcers were just like, Miami's whole thing is like throwing to the middle of the field. Like you can't have these throws open.
Yeah, I heard that.
And as like those words are leaving his mouth, like another throw over the middle to like Tyreek or Jonnu or Waddle, like they were just crushing them over the middle of the field, which is what we saw with the Rams a little bit the week before, but the Dolphins were even more aggressive about it and more successful. So I think in some ways it was probably matchup. I mean, in a lot of ways, it was probably like this was kind of the matchup for the Dolphins passing game. We have this Patriots defense that doesn't really get much pressure. They get some pressure, but they're not great. And they leave the middle of the field wide open. Like that's like a dream spot for the Dolphins. And we didn't see this the first time because they had Huntley in the first matchup. So it doesn't really get much better. Yeah, they won anyway. But it just doesn't get much better for the Dolphins, and therefore it doesn't really get much better for Waddle, who's really been the number 2 to 3. When John is on the field, they really target him. So
he led the team in targets yesterday.
Yeah. I don't have a ton of faith for Waddle to keep this going. And I said as someone who drafted a lot of them. So
Jonnu is just a better fit for what they're doing in the offense right now.
They want to get the ball out really quickly right now.
Yeah.
Right. I think the Tua concussion maybe changed some of the game planning a little bit. It's like get the ball out. He has the fastest time to throw in the league, lowest pressure rate in the league.
Do not let that dude get hit.
Do not let him get hit. Which makes
Jonnu Smith was always good, right?
Yeah. Always good. We kind of got psyoped by spending a year in New England, but like who amongst us,
With Henry, and then maybe 1 year after they drafted 2 tight ends in one draft. Can you guys remember those names?
Oh God, no, I can't.
Oh God, damn it! I should remember. One of them was
Dalton Keene, and
then one of them was I drafted Asiasi.
Matt. Yes.
No. Yes. Wow.
Wasn't it?
Wow.
Yeah. Back to back, 10 picks apart in the 3rd round in 2020, New England. Asiasi and Dalton Keene. That's some deep end stuff.
If only I'd used those brain cells to draft more Saquon Barkley, huh? That would have been.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So let's get a Chiefs report from Davis. Another Chiefs game, 30-27 against Carolina, the Mahomes run late. At least you got some numbers out of Pat, but more of the same, and maybe that's just fine, right? That's been the story all
No,
year.
that is not more of the same. That is not how they've played. Three passing touchdowns in a game they led the whole way. Not more of the same. Pat, they're just more consistently. The thing that has been frustrating, if you were a Mahomes guy, is for most of this season they have flipped what Andy Reid has historically done, which is he passes too much in the red zone to the point of being a detriment. Then this year he must have done some self-scouting and been like, well, let's just run the ball. And Kareem Hunt was really good at it. Kareem Hunt has not been that good at it. And he also, Mahomes has the autonomy to change the play down there if he sees something. And that was what the Noah Gray one was yesterday, which was kind of illuminating and we should think about things like this. The Noah Gray second touchdown was a cover 0. Mahomes saw it before the snap. You can hear him on the broadcast. He goes 0-0-0. And they run that spacing route where Kelsey is underneath Gray. And Mahomes throws that ball before Gray even looks, which is like, that's pretty I mean, Noah Gray's been a Chief for a long time, but that is pretty big trust for a guy who has not been a big part of their offense. Now, before we get too out of our skis on Noah Gray, his 5 touchdowns in the last 6 quarters of football equal his career touchdown totals from the week. I mean, we have seen backup tight ends do this before. Like, we've all seen a 2 touchdown Austin Hooper game in our lives. You know, and Gray's routes were really high against the Bills, and they totally regressed back on this one. He ran fewer routes than any of the wide receivers. So the 5th most routes of any, or the 6th most routes of any pass catcher. So I'm not like going crazy.
These guys have sometimes popped up later as viable starters. So I think it's still bullish for Gray long term. Like, I think, didn't Tyler Conklin first enter our lives as one of these dudes? And then
I mean, there's been these guys for time immemorial. They don't have the right role on the original team. I mean, I think Gray is going to play a ton in the playoffs, like a lot. The thing for our purposes, like for best ball and even for DFS, like, this is just not really like playoff best ball. He's going to be great. He's like, if you're doing the Mahomes stuff, actually, weirdly, by the way, the Chiefs are like going to be brutal for playoff best ball because they are the favorites to make the Super Bowl in the AFC. They're also going to be on the bye, very likely, but they also don't score any fantasy points in the games they play in. So it's going to be like getting Chiefs players to the final in playoff best ball is going to be very hard when like Xavier Worthy scoring 6 points, Hopkins scoring 9, Kelsey scoring 10, and Pacheco, Hunt, and P. Ryan are dicing up the backfield 3 ways.
Wait a minute. Last week you said, the Bills will get the 1. That changed because they beat Carolina by a field goal at the gun?
No, the Bills game.
That was just never supported by the math. The Bills were always, because I spent the last week dialing in the playoff sims that we have, and for the playoff best ball stuff, and the Bills have a good chance for the 1, but they never were the favorite for the 1.
I wouldn't. Well, you're not ruling it out, but look, Buffalo is getting San Francisco now in their current state. Then they go, what? Yeah. Okay. The last 3 weeks to me are the interesting things about those 2 teams. If they're 1 game apart and the Bills would win on ties, the Bills go Patriots, Jets, Patriots, where they're playing backups, in tank mode. Whereas the Chiefs go, Davis, Houston, Pittsburgh, Denver. I mean, that's different. Those are teams playing for their lives.
Yeah, the Bills have the harder schedule, but they're also the better team. So like it really could go. Like the Chiefs could have lost to the Panthers yesterday.
That doesn't sound like the harder schedule. I mean, they go Niners, Rams, Lions first, and that's different than what Kansas City is up to. But Kansas City has the Chargers again too.
Yeah.
The 49ers one is like huge if they don't have Purdy. That's just such a big difference because when we're looking at the schedule for the Bills, it's like the issue is that they have these 2 games where they're like they're like coin flips to win the game, the 49ers and the Detroit game. Mm-hmm. And then there's some some easier matchups as well, but the Chiefs also have an easier matchup. So, and the Chiefs don't have any game. I think the Chiefs in the look-ahead lines were favored by at least 4 in all of them. So taking one of those games for the Bills and moving it to like kind of a soft matchup is absolutely huge. Yeah.
The betting markets have favored Kansas City in this way. Maybe that would sort of run concurrent with the Sims. Also, if you care, today is November 25th here in Western New York. We have not had one snowflake yet. It's the latest we've ever gone without. I mean, I've lived through storms the first week of October that were like just everybody came to a stop. Coming up on end of November, not yet. Maybe Sunday, and that's Sunday Night Football.
Is that good or bad? You want snow or you not want snow as a Bills fan?
I mean, it's sunny today. I'm walking the dog. I'm fine with that.
I think
for your life, I'm sure.
As a Bills fan, you want the snow because the whole thesis is Josh Allen is built different,
right?
And these guys can't do what Josh can do in the elements, right?
I guess. I mean,
it also limits scoring, and you have the higher scoring quarterback.
That is Liam's theory. I should point out that is Chess Liam's theory as to why the Bills should not build a dome.
I think that's a part of why they drafted him. You know, they talked about. I mocked it all the time. Like they talked about the size of his hands. Like, come on, can we stop with the ground and pound and feeling like the best teams the Bills have ever had were, you know, run and gun in the early 90s. Yet, like every time we sort of have to default to, oh well, it's going to be cold and windy, and he's pretty good indoors, Allen.
Imagine drafting a guy because he has big hands, and then he turns out to be Josh Allen.
And he turns out to be Josh Allen.
Some run good there.
That was just part of it.
I got to be honest. I'm very split with this because, like, I would prefer the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, and it's much easier for them to win the Super Bowl if they don't have to play the wild card game. But I also like to win money at playoff best ball, and I know myself well enough to know that I can't not take Chiefs players in that format, particularly when there's data to support taking them as picks. So I almost would rather them not get the 1 seed so that they have to play the wild card round, you know?
And the prices move up, though. Their prices move up.
Well, I mean,
but I think they can. Yeah, I see.
But I've also already drafted 150 teams in the one contest with like a lot of Chiefs.
So the other thing about playoff best ball too is that you have this dynamic where there's like really only 5 quarterbacks that you want to take, and there's 6 teams. So when you're drafting out of the one hole, you're like praying that you get a quarterback back, and if Mahomes comes back, you're like slam. You're like yes. So
by the time the gauntlet comes around,
the Chiefs with the bye.
By the time the gauntlet comes around, you won't be able to do that anymore. You could do that. Sometimes you could start Barkley and get Hurts at the 2-3 turn. By the time that that people have descended upon the gauntlet and the mitten, that will be over. The quarterbacks will be picks 3 through 10. And some
I don't think you need to take what it is that what I think Allen should be a first round pick because he might get personally, I'm rooting for the Bills not to get the bye. Very selfishly for playoff best ball reasons. I want the Bills as a hammer. I want to be able to bet on the Bills to go to the Super Bowl
4 games
and win the Super Bowl, Mike. But that part doesn't really matter for my bags. But go to the Super Bowl and just be the absolute hammer, advance rate hammer the entire way because that allows me to build teams like I want to in playoff best ball where I don't have to like focus a ton on my advance rate pieces. I'm just like focusing on which teams are going to make the Super Bowl. And if the Bills don't have the bye, like they could just absolutely roll in that first round and help you get the teams through. So
it's been that for the last 3 or 4 years each time because they have never gotten the bye and they have played Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson in the first round and they've won those games and that's been fine. You say 5 quarterbacks, so I want to guess Allen, Mahomes, Jackson, Hurts, Goff. Are those the 5?
Yeah.
And last week, you guys did great talking about like, well, it's early enough where you want to play the chalk at this point when it comes to playoff best ball tournaments. Once we get past that, can I interest either of you in Mayfield? I mean, the passing is there. They have an easy schedule. They're a game behind Atlanta, which went into the bye is kind of a mess. You know, when we get to a point where we want to take chances, if you will, maybe he's interesting.
Well, I mean, those types of plays are already interesting. You you probably want to mix in sparingly the teams that might not make the playoffs, but you have to cover. You don't have to in the AFC. You could take the Chiefs and then bet that they don't get the bye. You could take the Bills. With the Bills, I am just kind of betting they don't get the bye. But if you want to cover that bye, it's better to do it with an NFC quarterback, because then you at least have the out of them also making the Super Bowl.
I think that is way too FPS. That is very fancy play, because the way the market was, and we'll see what happens when the gauntlet opens, is you could just do Packers. You can finish
Packers is better.
You can finish every draft. Love Watson Wicks, love Watson Kraft, love Dobbs, whoever. Or the market actually got woke to this at the end, but the Chargers are Dobbins, really Herbert, Ladd. You know, you
can do Steelers stuff at the end too, which is it's not fun, but like they're making it.
I just only I learned my lesson, I think, with this last year with the Flacco bullshit, where like I did some Brown stuff at the end to be my bye week advance pieces. And if I think a team is legitimately 0%, like I ran 80,000 simulations, they didn't make the Super Bowl once, their expectation is just too bad.
But it's not the Super Bowl, it's the conference championship. Because you wouldn't take Russ.
They only got there
quarterback.
They only got there in 7 of my 80,000 simulations, the Browns, and I still took them. So that was
yeah, well, that's probably not enough.
That was a bad pick.
Yeah. And if you're doing purely to cover a bye week, we want to draft teams that are live for all the teams to make the conference championship, but like, you know, you get to the end, you're like, what team can win round 1, and then we'll kind of take it from there and help me cover that bye.
NFC is set up for just a really good first week. You have teams like the Vikings and the Packers on the road against the Falcons or the Bucks and the Cardinals or the Seahawks. You know, there could be a couple of road favorites in the NFC playoffs first round. We'll see if Washington can get home at this point.
Yeah, I know who's playing the Falcons, that road team against the Falcons, you're like,
oh my god,
you're gonna
Michael Penix is starting that game. I think Sam, rest in peace to Sam. He tweeted that Michael Penix is going to be starting that game.
But if it's Minnesota, how could they deprive us of a Kirk versus the Vikings first round game? But
man,
Kirk not showing up for that game would be pretty on brand. So
it sure would. Oh
my
god,
people forget his road overtime playoff win against Breeze and the Saints. They forget that.
The Minnesota Vikings, dude. Please, I'm begging you, dude. Can we just get one Justin Jefferson game? Just one.
So they play the Falcons in the next couple weeks.
Yes, I think maybe next.
Yeah, I think that could be the game, Davis. I was eyeing that up.
Somehow that's gonna be a Cam Akers game.
Week 14 for all the advance rate money. Atlanta at Minnesota. All right.
Jefferson having a 41-point underdog game I bet that would be worth 5 teams to me if I had to guess.
I'll be rooting for you. Happy Thanksgiving, Davis and Pat, and everybody for watching today. I'm Mike Show, Pat Crane, Davis Maddock.
What's in the show?
ADP right. Chasing. See you next week.
Hang on, I gotta get the outro.